go on. Okay, hey everybody on Facebook and YouTube. We just lost Oh, you were there and then you disappeared. Okay, you're there now. Okay, sorry about that, guys, on Facebook and YouTube. You're gonna have to catch up.
Start the
Watch
show
the
over.
rerun. Watch the rerun after the show ends.
Thanks, Dottie.
Yeah, thanks, Mom. Okay, so interest rates. When I was sitting down talking to a customer just yesterday, we were talking about interest rates, and I said how the interest rates had been going up for the last couple of weeks, and they were like, "What? I've heard they've been going down." Well, they were going down, and then they went up, and then they're hopefully going down a little tiny bit right now, and hopefully that's beginning a trend. So what are we doing? The up and down is exactly what I said was going to happen at the end of last year. I said the interest rates are going to keep bouncing up and down. We're not going to have a smooth ride. It's not going to continuously go up. It's not going to continuously go down. It's going to be up and down, up and down, up and down like a jackhammer. And if you don't handle this real estate market right, you might not get the best results that you can get. So we're going to talk about that with Mike a little bit later when we get into the interest rates in more detail. Here's another thing that might be impacting South Florida. Thank you, AJ, for responding. Is that the short-term rental regulations like Airbnb and the short-term rentals, the state of Florida is trying to create statewide almost regulations on how to handle this. This could be a big shock to short-term vacation owners in the area. We don't even know all the fallout yet because, frankly, the legislators passed stuff, but they're not even sure how it's going to work out yet. So welcome to Florida government.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to do it. So you pass the law and then just see what happens.
And then you figure out what you're going to do afterwards, right? Yeah.
Hopefully it was a little more well thought out than that.
Ross, we are going to talk. There was an article. Now, this came out a couple of weeks ago, so it's not super new, but they were talking about how high home prices are actually forcing, insurance costs are forcing home prices to go down in a certain part of the state. I wonder if that's the bubble area. So we're going to talk about that too.
It could be the opposite too. It could be that insurance rates coming down a little bit are having the reverse effect.
Yes, that's true.
Ross is
skeptical.
Yeah, Ross is sitting there not sure.
I mean, I'm not seeing rate. I've seen a few rate decreases, but overall they're
going up.
They're still pretty high.
Yeah,
unless you have brand new construction, man.
I know. That's why I keep telling seniors, if you're going to rebuy at a certain stage of your life, it's so much safer to buy the new construction if you can. The reason why, in my opinion, is because of the insurance. You're probably not going to be banged up on insurance issues, even if we have a couple of big ones coming in the area over years, because your house is going to be newer than everybody else's. The building codes are pretty strong for the houses. And also deferred maintenance for the long time. You don't have to worry about the roof for probably 10 to 15 years minimum. Your AC, 8 to 12 years. Your water heater, all those big ticket items. When you're a senior, you don't want to have those high costs. Getting a new construction home might be the way to go. And there are a lot of affordable new construction homes out there. You can buy new construction in St. Lucie County in the threes, right? You don't
I can vouch for that.
Yes, exactly. So, new construction is not unaffordable necessarily. So if you're thinking about doing something, give us a call. A couple other things. Home Depot guy, when we were off for the last 2 weeks, the head of the former CEO of Home Depot, he went off saying that he's expecting a tremendous shift in the labor market and that this soft landing is not going to happen and that massive layoffs are coming. And then this week we had our job report. Do you think they matched? The messages matched? We're going to find out in a little bit later today. Find out if that Home Depot guy is on chart. Jerome Powell, we had so much news this week. What was it, 2 days ago, Mike? Jerome Powell had that meeting with Congress, and he had the talk with Congress of what he thinks the future of the national economy is going to be and what's going to happen with the Fed interest rates. The interview, I only caught about probably the last third of it. I'm surprised at the feelings that I don't even know if I want to say feelings, because usually Fed Reserves, they're like automaton robots. They try not to show anything. But I was surprised at how optimistic he sounded in that report, but not as optimistic as I'm reading people interpreting his comments in there. So we're going to take a look at that. And then finally, I want to get to the shout outs. So let's just get to the shout outs first. We've had a lot of stuff happen over time. First of all, I want to say goodbye to Carl and Maggie. I'm very sad they moved to Ireland. They finally made that trip. While we were gone, they were closing right after we went off air. And they're happy and safe and sound in Ireland. I think they already found a place to buy out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow, that didn't take long.
Man, he did a Google thing for me to show me the exact house he's going to buy over there on a Google map, because the hamlet is so small. It's like 2 streets or something. And anyway, one of the people are moving, so they're like, "Hey, buy this house," and it's right next door.
Didn't you say they had to get like on some list or something?
Yeah,
like,
but
so what they do
apparently-
jump.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
apparently they had something right away, so they're looking at buying something. It was really interesting. They're all like connected townhomes almost. It's like that's what it is. It's a group of those. And buying something in Ireland is about 150 to 200 American. And then he's going to go in there and he's going to, fix up the kitchens and bathrooms and everything, probably spend another 30 grand or so on the repairs. So
US or
$250,000.
euros?
I think he's talking US dollars. I think
Okay.
because he was talking to me. So I think he was telling me what the regular cost would be.
Did we talk about where they pay all their taxes up front or something like that?
He mentioned that to me
Yeah.
when we were talking off air one time, that apparently like their property taxes, that's the way they do it. When you buy it, that you pay for it up front.
Huh.
Yeah.
But,
Just
and
a
then-
one-time lump sum.
Yeah, that type of thing. And then the rest of like the taxes are your income, and it all comes out of one big, your income, and then the
Your VAT.
town or the country actually pays for things that way.
And the area he lives is so close to the ocean. So, he's in a really good area. I'm really happy for Carl and Maggie. Thank you so much for trusting us to sell your house. He was a big fan of the show, and he says he's going to continue to listen on the iHeartMedia app, which everybody can do. If you're listening on the radio right now, you can listen to us live on the iHeartMedia app for free. And then it turns into a podcast. I think we have close to 500 shows or maybe more on that podcast, on that app, iHeartMedia app. All you got to do is Google Florida Talk Real Estate. And of course, we'll take your calls live on air today. We actually are live. This is March 9th, 2024. Tomorrow is one of my favorite holidays of the year. Does everybody know what one of my favorite holidays are?
What it March 10th?
March 10th.
Daylight savings time.
Oh, that's a holiday.
I'm so happy.
Okay.
I'm so happy. I
call
hate,
that a
I
holiday
hate that
now?
other cycle. What are
And-
we doing? We're springing ahead.
Springing ahead.
Bring it
This is the
forward.
one
We lose an hour.
Yeah, because I don't fall back for anybody. So anyway, the bottom line is we're springing ahead, and I'm so happy tomorrow's a holiday. Couple other shout outs. Congratulations to Anne Marie. Very special lady. She had come to me through a referral from Mark. Thank you, Mark, for referring us out. I don't know if you remember, Mike, but Mark was a pretty well-known DJ down here for many, many years. And he had all this radio equipment and all these 1970s vinyl albums. And he had the Peaches crates from Peaches Records. Do you remember that?
Wow.
And he actually gave me a couple of crates full of music, and I gave
Wow.
it to Isabel at the time. Do you remember that a long time ago?
Yes.
So Mark has been a big fan of us since he found out about us, because he was referred to us from another person, George, that we helped sell a house in Royal Palm.
And George came from Kevin Bacon, right?
Yeah, 7 degrees, right? The 7
6
degrees.
degrees here.
So George referred us to Mark. Mark then sold his house with us, his townhome. Then we helped him buy a villa in Lake Worth, which he's really, really happy with. And then one of Mark's neighbors, and Mark's just an awesome person, so anybody that knows Mark really likes him, said, hey, if you're going to be selling that house, Anne Marie, you should call Jim. She met with us. These are the services we were able to provide her, because this house down here in Delray was supposed to be their retirement home, but Anne Marie lost her significant other, so she didn't want to keep the place down here anymore, but she lives up north. So the place had to be emptied. It had to be cleaned. We had she had a car that needed to be sold or taken care of down here. So the Florida Home Pros, our team, did all of that for her. We helped her to get to the people to get the stuff out of the house. We helped the people come in to clean the house while she was gone. We even found a charity that she donated the car to, which was really great. Thank you so much, Anne Marie, for that, for the KOP Mentoring Network with C. Ron Allen. That was a really nice donation.
Cool.
And it's really helping out those kids a lot. So thank you so much, Anne Marie.
Get them closer to that van.
Yeah, we got to get the van this year. That's when we'll talk about that in a second on the break. But anyway, Anne Marie came to us. We put the house on the market. There were a lot of upgrades to this house, newer roof. They put an enclosed impact window screen enclosure, newer AC, only a year old. But the house was kind of dated. You know, it was original kitchen, original bathroom with the cove ceilings, with the plastic ceilings, with the lights and everything. We put the house on the market. It took us like 20 days to sell it, I guess. We had a couple offers, and it was kind of funny. I know, to me, we had not very many showings for quite a while.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, within 3 days, we had a couple of people coming in and turning in offers right away.
All right.
So,
well, you do have a 21-day plan. Right?
Yeah, we have the 21-day
we're
plan.
still under the
we were there.
21-day plan.
So we were able to get the house under contract. The next day, Mike, they did the appraisal the very next day. So the appraisal is done before the inspection. The inspection was yesterday. I know the appraisal went okay because I talked to the appraiser. He's like, no problem. So I think we're good. So Anne Marie's in great shape. And thank you so much for trusting us. And thank you, Mark, for referring us out. Referrals are the lifeblood of all of our business here, from Mike and Ross and me. So anytime that you have friends or family members, even if you can't do something and you're a big fan of the show, please try to refer us out. It's really the lifeblood of our business. And we're going to be talking about the state of economy, and you're going to explain why in a little bit. Also, we had, hold on here. There were so many things that happened while I was gone. Hold on. Also, George, I wanted to thank George. Now, this is the second time this has happened. I find it very interesting. I've had a lot of seniors, guys, that have sound like I'm from Oregon, that have bought properties, and then 3 to 4 months later, they decide they don't like where they live and want to sell the place and go someplace else.
That's tough.
That is. It's really, really tough, because what people don't realize, when you buy the house, unless you're buying way under appraised value, which most people are not today, if you're paying the appraised value for the house, which typically most people are, and then you're trying to sell it 3 or 6 months later, there's no equity growth or very little equity growth to make up the difference of all those costs you paid to buy the house. Now, and then also the cost to sell the house too. So George went in and bought a house. He's from North Carolina.
That is one way to avoid capital gains tax, though. Just don't have a gain.
Yeah,
right?
just don't have any capital
have a loss.
gains, right?
Have a loss?
Capital loss. Right?
Yeah.
So George,
I don't know if that's the road we want to go down.
Well, with George, what happened was he's from North Carolina and he has kids down here, and he moved down here to an area of Aberdeen and Boynton Beach, which is a membership equity community. So everybody's got to pay a minimum of $65,000 plus the purchase price just to pay for the fees for the community just walking in. Then you have substantial monthly fees to pay also. So those are always tough to sell. So George bought the place. He moved in. He really felt like he regretted it. He felt like at this point he should have maybe moved into like an assisted living facility. So he started looking down here. The waiting lists are very long. So he kept saying, I want to wait until I'm past the waiting list and I actually have a place before I put it on the market. This was like December. I said, George, that's not a good idea because your type of property sells before Easter because of the season. So if you don't sell it by Easter, you might be waiting that whole summer and just going to sit there until next season. And you're not going to want to do that because if your place is ready, you're going to be, so we got to get it on the market now. He didn't really like that idea, but eventually he saw the light. So he said, okay, if I sell the house and I don't have a place to live yet, I'll just move in with relatives, which he could do.
That is his hell. Just move in with you.
But he wasn't real. Yeah, there you go. But he wasn't real happy about that option. So then he decided, then he had another shift and he decided he was moving back to his home in Asheville, North Carolina. Beautiful place. I love it up there. Fried green tomatoes. So what he did was he said, Jim, I'm going to trust you. Just put it on the market. We took how many days? It took a little bit of time to sell it. Hold on. It took.
Which is not uncommon.
35 days to sell it. 35 days to go into contract. Now, we probably were negotiating for 8 or 9 days of that 35 with the buyer, but it took us a while because we had a lot of moving parts. But George was really satisfied. The moving truck left on Thursday, and he's up in Asheville, North Carolina, and he got his assisted living facility up there, so he's super, super happy about that. The only thing that was sad to me about this was with George is that he is a big historian and he had some of the best furniture artifacts I've seen. I almost feel like I was in Williamsburg, Virginia. Everything was like 1700s, 1600s decks with the quarter sewn oak and like handmade everything. And you open up the drawers and you see the joints and everything. And it's just like, it was amazing.
This is the furniture he uses?
Yeah, he has it all over his house. Cool. And he had all this stuff. Well, he decided he wasn't going to take it. And he put it up for consignment. He said he got pennies on the dollar. And he goes, even my kids don't want this stuff. And it's like 300 years old. And just really.
The craftsmanship from back then, too. Yeah. Just unbelievable. Yeah. And proven it's still around.
Yeah, it's still around, right?
It's not particle board.
Yeah, exactly. IKEA.
Like a little thin, tiny nails.
Yeah, it's meant to be throwaway.
So congratulations to George. I'm so happy that we were able to get you to the next chapter of your life, because that's what this show is all about, is trying to get people to the next chapter of life, whatever that chapter is for them. It's not about us. The other thing I wanted to go over was I wanted to thank a couple people. We went under contract with 2 people yesterday. So it was a very crazy day yesterday because Nancy was out of town, my office manager. So me being Nancy and me, that's never a good day. And not just bad day for me, it's bad day for everybody because I don't know what I'm doing.
You didn't even reply to my emails to Nancy.
Yeah, exactly. So
I was like, what's going on with Nancy? She's usually like, 2 minutes you get a reply.
Yeah, and she won't be here Monday either, just so you know.
All right. So nothing is getting done, guys. If you're
don't say that. Don't say that. So last week we were under contract with Anne Marie, which we're so far happening so fast with her. We'll probably close in less than a month. We also went under contract. Thank you, the Pfaff family. That's PFAFF. There are 5 realtors from Keller Williams. 3 of them are attorneys.
Okay.
That's never a good thing. And they needed to sell an estate home down here, state condo. It's actually where Johnny C's mom used to live. So I sold 1 unit over there a long time ago in Fort Pierce. So that one was really hard.
Wait, so they're agents and attorneys and they're hiring you?
Because they're in Philadelphia and New York.
Oh, okay.
So they needed an agent down here. So they asked me to do it. I'm on the leadership council for Keller Williams. So they asked me to go ahead and take it over.
Cool.
That property, selling Johnny's house and the other house or the other condo I sold there, was not fun. It was a very tough community to sell because there's a lot of concrete restoration going on. So I was telling them, look, if you don't price this right, it's going to sit and sit and sit and sit. And they didn't agree with me, and they priced it higher, and it sat and sat and sat and sat. And then finally I got them to agree to hit the price that I wanted to. And we went under contract 2 days ago.
Funny
At
how
the
that
exact
works,
price,
huh? How
at
about
the
that?
exact price that I
recommended?
predicted we were going to be. Now they negotiated it because, you know, the attorneys and realtors. So they told me what to do for the negotiation, but we ended up at the number that I thought we were going to end up at. So they're very happy. We're doing the inspection right now as we speak. The inspection's going on right now. So thank you for the Pfaff family for trusting me and getting the house sold. We're not there yet because we're just in inspection period, but it's cash. So, and that was another senior. So here is another one. The place that I sold in Fort Pierce, the condo, is a 55 and over. So apparently the buyer that's buying this house that's under contract, before it was on the market, tried to work directly with the sellers to try to buy it. And they just couldn't have a meeting of the minds. They were too far off on price. So the buyer was like, okay, see you later. And then they went out and bought another unit. Well, they have only owned that unit for 3 months and they hate it and they wanted to buy the other unit. So they called us up with an agent. Now she's represented and says, we want to put an offer on the house. I didn't know all that happened before I was hired. So when I turned in the offer, these people, the sellers were like, we negotiated with this lady for 2 months and now she's coming back. And I'm like, well, it's worse than that. Now she needs to sell her property in order to buy this one. And it had only been on the market. She only bought it 3 months earlier and she put it up for 10% above what she paid for it. And I was like, it's not going to happen. When I checked the comps, I'm like, she's too high. There's too many properties for sale over there. They're going to buy all these other properties.
And she almost has to do that 10% to even break
Just to
even
make
on
it,
that.
that's what she was trying to do, break even. And what
Yeah.
she really needed to do is take a loss if she needed to get the house she wanted.
I
Right?
feel like if like an agent would look at that on like public records and be like, no, like she just paid that 3 months ago.
Not only agents, I think buyers are savvy enough to do that. I try to tell people, I say, you can't worry about what somebody paid for something just because it's not really indicative of the current market. But in this case, if it was so new, you know,
exactly.
it is
It's
important.
90
Like you're
days.
just going, you're just trying to make a quick buck here, you know?
Yeah. So what happened was when I say the sellers kept turning down our offer because it was contingent on the sale. Then we told them that we had another offer coming in, which we did, right? And then they decided to withdraw the contingency that they have to sell their house to buy the house.
Okay.
So now we're closing in 2 weeks. So no appraisal. As long as we get through the inspection, we're good.
Are you knocking on wood?
I should knock on wood.
There it is.
Yeah, but I think the house is in pretty good condition. I'm not going to.
I'm curious, what is it about the unit that buyer bought? Is it like bedrooms or is it view? Or
I looked at the unit. It was a cute little unit, but she wants to live on the island, and the condo is actually on Hutchinson Island, and she really wants to be there. Her property wasn't really on the island.
I thought you meant she bought in like the same condo.
Yeah,
project.
No, she bought in a different community, but close
okay.
by.
That
I'm
makes
sorry
sense.
if I wasn't clear on that. I apologize.
You might have been.
And,
Just Ross and I got the wrong impression.
Yeah, and
Jimothy,
I was there.
Yeah, but everybody
I
else, it's okay. So,
can you hear the eye roll?
yeah, exactly. So, that's funny you mentioned eye roll. When I was at the training at Keller Williams, I was pretty disappointed with the content of some of the classes. And by the fourth day of going into training after training and not getting some of the results I wanted, I remember I was in this one class and the guy actually starts the class saying, I'm not sure I want to talk about the topic that's for this class. And I'm like, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't here for the topic.
I'm going to go now.
I didn't prepare.
And then he proceeded not to talk about the topic. And at one point, I was rolling my eyes so dramatically. And you guys know my eye roll, right? Yeah, he saw me. And he actually like stopped the talk.
You heckled
to point me out.
No. You heckled him.
I did. I didn't say anything. I just went, well, actually, I went, really? Like that. And I actually said my really, which is when I'm saying my really, I'm pretty frustrated. So anyway.
Do you have paper in your hand and it made a noise when you ruffled it?
No, by then I was pretty shot.
Listen, I try to work with as many real estate agents as possible. Same thing as Ross. I don't know that I could handle 17,000 agents. all at the same time, right? Like,
well, it was a little hard for me too. It was like agent overload, and we had Tony Robbins come, right? So that was a big event. Tony
Cool.
Robbins talked for
Yeah.
3.5 hours. I didn't go.
You missed
I
Tony
didn't go
Robbins?
to Tony Robbins.
Have you seen him before?
I like
live?
Tony Robbins. No, I don't like the idea when people buy a ticket to go someplace for like a motivational thing, and they're just super excited that their life is going to change because they bought a ticket. Right? It's like you have to do the stuff that Tony says in order to get the results.
Yeah, but you got to go
want.
see what Tony says.
I didn't want to see what Tony said,
Oh,
so
man.
I stayed
That's a
at the table.
unique opportunity.
No, he's got his own Tony, Dan. Right?
Yeah, I have my own coaches and stuff. Now, I'm not against Tony Robbins. Don't get me wrong. I believe in his messages and stuff. I just don't like that whole big group experience with the rah-rah. It actually turns me off. So I'd rather be in a much quieter, smaller group where you're really having like deep stuff. But anyway, that's just me. I'm not saying everybody should do that, but it was a pretty amazing thing. But there were just too many realtors out there. It was like I felt like I was in a funny movie. Like I felt like what was that TV show? Housewives, or not Housewives, or Real Housewives, but the one in the early 2000s. It was something
Real World?
Desperate Housewives.
Oh, Desperate Housewives.
I felt like
I never
It was
watched
in
it.
Jersey, and there was too many Jersey people there.
It was just too realtory. It was just too much realtor emotions and stuff. I was like, oh my God. So after a while, people were saying, so are you here for the realtor convention? No, because I didn't want to start talking about, all of it. However,
Real estate overlay.
I had some really great conversations, and that's what's going to get us to the bubble soon. Okay. We're going to talk about the bubble.
Right.
And that's how I found out about the bubble. Then I did the research. I'm like, wow, it really is a bubble.
That's those things with those like the corporate events. I'll call them like the rah-rah events. But when you go to those things, if you can get like one or two just little things that you can actually implement and like make a change, then it was worth,
and I
worth
got
making
that.
the trip.
I got like 2 or 3 of those moments, but I was really
you get it at the bar
things
afterwards.
I went for, I didn't get, but I got things from it that's very important and will help grow the business and make a better customer experience for the customers, but not what I wanted.
Was anybody else doing a radio show?
But here's the funny part. I'm sitting at the blackjack table on the last day or second to last day of the thing.
Doing research, of course.
Yes, of course. And I'm sitting there playing blackjack, and this loud group comes by, and somebody plops in the chair to the right of me. It was Ken Posick from Orlando. Do you know Posick?
Oh, I know the name.
Ken Posick is like a super big YouTube star from Orlando. He does like, when I first started watching him, he was probably doing 80 deals a year. Now he's doing over 300. He's doing like 120 million in production. I'm a big fan of his YouTube channel. So he sits down next to me, and just like people that know me from the radio or whatever, when he sat down, I'm like, oh, hey, Ken. And he looked at me. He's like, who? At first, his first instance, like, who the heck are you? And then I realized that I was doing what everybody does to me.
Right.
And I go, hey, I'm a big fan of your YouTube channel. I've been watching it for years, right? And he goes like, oh, cool. And I told him I was at Keller Williams, and I told him I might have an athlete that's going to be buying something in Orlando, and I'll refer the athlete out to him from the Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment. But anyway, one of the questions I asked him was, hey, I know you don't want to talk about work right now because we're off, but I got to ask you one YouTube question. He's like, yeah. And I go, how far is the back of your chair from the wall in your studio?
Because,
and he looks at me, he's like, what? And I go, I suck at the technology part for creating a studio, and I want to know how far back you are and what kind of lens you uses. And he told me. But Ken's going to be on our show. He's agreed to come on our radio show whenever I pick. So we're going to pick a time, and he'll be on the show.
Cool.
Talking about the Orlando market and what's going on in the Orlando market. One of the things we're going to do this year for the rest of the year is we're making a commitment talking about other markets besides Florida, markets that Floridians are moving to, and markets where people are moving from to come to Florida. And we're going to be talking to top agents for all those areas and having little short clips on that just to find out, because there's a lot of people in Florida right now. And this is the big thing that nobody's talking about. Everybody's talking about the influx coming in, but we have almost as big an influx going out. And they're all moving to different areas. It really is an, emigration, I guess, instead of immigration. Sorry?
An exodus?
An exodus. It really is. And what we're doing is we're getting more wealthier people coming in, and more of the middle class people are leaving out. And we're gutting our middle class. And when I say gutting, I don't know if it's going to become fully depleted, but we're losing a lot of middle-class people.
And it's not a lifestyle thing. It's an affordability.
Two things. It's both, Mike.
Okay.
The people that are moving are either moving for lifestyle. They just want a slower lifestyle. They're tired of the traffic. They're tired of hurricanes. They're tired of the heat, that kind of thing. Then you have the other people that are just tired of the costs.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of everything being so expensive down here. I'm gone. And even some people are moving from South Florida, Southeast Florida to
That was a
Central.
triple cough.
I know.
That was
That's
a
wild.
triple cough.
Wow.
Same time, too. It was like,
Play the lottery, right? Never happens. So, there's been a lot of changes. Oh, I wanted to switch over to one more shout out. I wanted to do a shout out for April and Joe. They came to us to sell their house a few months ago in Lake Clark Shores. We sold the house. We helped them find a rental property. They moved into the rental property while they were going to search for the right area they wanted to live in. Ironically, where they moved to for the rental, they love that area. So they called us up and said, we don't want to continue with our lease. We're going to break it. If we have to eat it, we're going to eat it. But we want to buy a house. These people are lightning fast. When they put their house on the market, I told them, take a little while and search around before you pick your rental, because your house might take a little longer to sell because of the neighborhood values. They're like, okay. 2 days later, they're in contract for the rental property. I hadn't even got the house on the market yet, I don't think. Right. So then this time they called us Monday and said, we're really interested in buying up here. I was like, you got plenty of time. You got a year lease. Let's go find something great. They're in contract, right, Mike?
Yeah.
You told me.
I mean, I got a call from David say, hey, reach out to Joe. We're going shopping tomorrow. I want to make sure that they're good. And that's a little, usually it's like, hey, talk to Mike, and then we'll figure out when we're going to start shopping. So they had kind of like, but they were like really solid. So I think everybody knew that. And so it was just quick. It was like pre-approval one day, contract the next, and I told Joe, I was like, you guys are lightning fast. I wish were all like that, right? Like, it'd be nice if it was like super solid pre-approval followed by a contract the next day, and it's like, boom,
with a brand new construction home.
Yeah. It was so funny. Like Joe, they do listen, I think. So I'm sure they're listening this morning. So shout out. I was talking to her yesterday about insurance, like, just in general. And I have this conversation with people. I don't know how you feel about insurance. Like, some people like to be covered. She's like, no, I think I'm more like bare bones. And she said bare bones. I was like, oh, you do listen. You're definitely a listener, because she's used Ross too in the past. And so, shout out. It's nice to have. It's nice to know people are actually listening to us, and they stick with us through the years, and then we get to do business together. So really cool.
That does make that's what, I don't know. That's what makes this radio show for me, is those kind of interactions and relations we have. And I'm so happy. I haven't seen their house yet. I looked on the line. I remember when they turned the offer, and I wrote, cute house, good luck. And then I didn't know they got the offer. David Stein, by the way, you mentioned David. David Stein is my one of my team members, and he's the one that helped April and Joe find the house. That was the second house. And the funny part is, in 72 hours, they made offers on 2 houses.
Yeah.
And the first one got rejected. And then they went out and made an offer on the other house, and they're really happy. So we still got to get through I think they're doing the inspection today or yesterday.
And I'll tell you what, they were shopping at a price point that I think we have a lot of buyers who are in that range who have trouble finding what they're looking for. And so, and they're like really overqualified. It
was under 400.
Yeah.
Right. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath under 400, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there are houses out there in that price range. If you think like the average home in Palm Beach County right now is roughly, or in South Florida is roughly around $600,000 for the medium sales price, but you can get stuff lower if you have the right agents and look around. And inventory is growing a little bit, so we're going to get into that a little bit too. But thank you, Joe, for trusting us and going into contract. We really, really, really appreciate that.
You want to do a reset, Jim?
Yes, let's go ahead and do the reset. And on the flip side, let's see. I think we're going to talk about the bubble first, because that's the newest of the new news. I mean, nobody's talked about bubbles ever in a long time. So we're going to talk about this bubble in Florida. Yeah, but it could be scary, but we'll see what happens, and we'll see what you guys think about whether this is a trend or if this is a unique experience in a certain area.
All right. Well, don't go anywhere, because we're going to be getting into that just on the other side of this break. As a reminder, you can follow us on Facebook, FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. Also on YouTube, Florida Talk Real Estate LLC on there. Jim's got a bunch of chunk videos that you can watch and learn all the stuff you need to know and help make your real estate transaction easier. 888-973-7828. When you're ready to put your home up for sale, or you want to get some more information, learn what you need to know. This is where you want to go and get help from the pros. You got guys that'll help you out with not only Jim with real estate, but you've got homeowners insurance. You got Michael help you out with the mortgage. That's where you need to go. 888-973-7828 or floridatalkrealestate.com. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be coming back here just in a couple short minutes here on Real Radio 92.1 and 101.7.
We're everywhere you need to be. Find your favorite show at realradio921.com. Here's the latest with weather on Real Radio.
From the Gordon & Partners Weather Center. Have you or a loved one been injured through no fault of your own? Call 561-333-3333 or go to fortheinjured.com.
I'm CBS 12 meteorologist Charlotte Carl. Still warming up today. Highs expected to reach the mid to upper 80s. Warmest areas will be inland. Moderate risk of rip currents, high UV index, so be sure if you're headed out to the beach to apply your sunscreen and drink your water. Thunderstorms to arrive tomorrow morning with that cold front that will bring us nice cool temperatures to start off your work week.
This report is sponsored by the Florida Department of Transportation. Hey, listeners, before celebrating St. Patrick's Day this year, remember to plan ahead and know all your options. If you drink, don't get behind the wheel. Instead, designate a sober driver or catch a ride service. And if you are the designated sober driver, commit to staying sober. Don't let your luck run out.
Hey, it's your boy Johnny C here, host of Florida Talk Real Estate. They're tops when it comes to helping people buy and sell houses. But Florida Talk Real Estate is so much more than that. For 5 years, I've watched these guys help thousands of our listeners with any real estate need. They couldn't do it without their sponsors, who are experts in their fields. Check it out. Jim DePola, powered by Keller Williams Realty. Their team specializes in helping people sell their house for top dollar, and buyers get great deals on the purchase of their home. That's what they did for me and my family, and I couldn't be happier that I hired them for my real estate transaction. Mike Rauch from the mortgage firm is one of our favorite guests on the show, and he is the mortgage guy. Whether you're looking for a refi or a mortgage to purchase a new home, Mike Rauch will get you the answers you need. The mortgage firm is licensed to do loans in Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia, and they have local offices that cover all of South Florida. So if you're thinking about a refi or a new mortgage, go to the mortgage guy, Mike Rauch, and find out what he can do for you. The Mortgage Firm, Inc., NMLS 189233, Florida license MLD 78, equal housing lender. The law office of Paul A. Krasker has been specializing in real estate law for nearly 25 years and has the professional team you need. Upside down with your house, Paul's team can help you conduct short sales, loan modifications, even if you're behind on payments. They also help you with foreclosure defense and bankruptcy. They can even help you get a student loan modification and repair your credit to get the score you need. Paul's full-service team has helped thousands of our listeners, and they can help you too. Trident Title LLC is the largest privately owned title company in Florida. When you need a title company to complete a refi, home purchase, or sale, Trident Title has got you covered. Not only do they offer competitive pricing, Trident Title has attorneys on staff to make sure if you have bumps in the road declaring title that you can get the job done. Beware, not all title companies in Florida have attorneys on staff. Trident Title does and complies with all the new federal regulations released last year. Komarinetz, owner of Brightway Insurance, has been helping our listeners get great rates on homeowners insurance plans. Haven't checked your homeowners insurance policy in a while? This is a great way to help reduce your monthly mortgage payment. Ross can also help with renters and auto insurance. Ross is only a phone call away and can usually get the answers you need same day.
Call Ross today at 561-425-6228 or drop by his office at 873 Donald Ross Road in Juno Beach.
So now you know why I'm happy to be part of the Florida Talk Real Estate Show, the longest running real estate show in Florida. And all these sponsors are just a phone call or a click away. Just call 888-973-7828. That's 888-973-7828. Or go to floridatalkrealestate.com. That's floridatalkrealestate.com. And don't forget to use the most accurate search engine to find your new home or ask for a free home valuation because floridatalkrealestate.com has you covered. That's floridatalkrealestate.com.
This is Real Radio 92.1 and 101.7. Real talk for the Palm Beaches and the Treasure Coast. This is Florida Talk Real Estate with Jim DePola and Johnny C. Got a question for the show? Call us live at 1-877-927-6969.
You heard the man. Call right now, 877-927-6969. Got a question about real estate? Got a question about mortgages? Got a question about homeowners insurance? We have 3 professionals right here that can help you out with that. And we're going to start with Mike Rauch. Mike, welcome back to the show. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing great this morning. Good to be back. Now, Jimothy, when they call, whose voice are they going to hear? Melodious tones.
They might hear mine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We're doing a little double duty here, doing as much as we can. But yes, please, I'll pick up the phone. We'll get you set up here, and we will get you on the air with the guys that can help you with any question you have in real estate, homeowners insurance. Heck, even some, if you need some legal help, we can direct you to Paul A. Krasker with the law offices of Paul A. Krasker. We have everything here. That's what makes Florida Talk Real Estate the best place to go to, because you have everything in one place with all your real estate needs, including homeowners insurance. And we got our good friend Ross Komarinetz from Brightway Insurance, Juno Beach, with us. How you doing, Ross?
I am doing well. Good to see everybody.
Excellent.
Juno, that's right.
Juno, that's right.
There it is,
No.
the D-line that we love. And of course, we wouldn't be complete without our fearless leader, Jim DePola, the owner of Florida Home Pros, a top producing Keller Williams team. Jim, glad to see you. Always a pleasure.
Yep,
What's going on, pal?
I'm here. I'm happy to be here. Happy South Florida, everybody. I haven't said that in several weeks. Happy South Florida, right? That's what we need to be.
How was the weather out there in Vegas compared to
It was
Florida?
beautiful. I brought I
Not
have
cold?
this really expensive leather jacket. I mean, really
okay.
expensive. I bought it like for a Super Bowl event in Los Angeles a few years ago, 2021. I hardly ever get to wear the thing. I was so happy because it said it was going to be 40 degrees in Vegas. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to wear this jacket. It was 70 the whole time, which I was really happy about, but I didn't get to wear my jacket too much.
Probably got the 40 at night when you were either in the casino or in bed.
Yeah, but I wasn't outside a lot. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I wasn't walking around outside a lot. I wanted to give a shout out to Muriel. She just came in just to say that she's checking in with us, which I really like. Muriel's one of my favorite customers from last year. She is one of the people that moved from Florida, Port St. Lucie, to South Carolina. So it was funny that she checked in when we were just talking on the last segment about how all these people are moving out of the state as they are moving into the state. So Muriel, I'm hoping you're enjoying the South Carolina life, and I really like your Facebook posts, so keep them going.
Actually,
I love seeing your changes.
You helped her twice, right? She had 2 houses that she
Actually,
sold here.
Yes. I sold her
And,
mom's house
mhm.
and her house, and then she referred us, and that's the other shout out. I totally forgot. Thank you, Peggy and Carl. So Muriel came to us. Muriel told Peggy and Carl, her neighbors, when they needed to sell, to come and talk to me. Peggy and Carl just closed yesterday. It was a difficult closing because they had only bought the house relatively like within the last year or year and a half. Then they were selling it again. They put on a whole solar panel system on a house on a roof that was no good.
Oh,
so they had to deal with the solar panel costs. And then on top of it, we had a roof that was, I shouldn't say it was no good, but it was really close to past its useful life.
We say deal with the solar panel costs because there's some nuance there when you're trying to finance a home that has solar. Kind of depends on
if it's a PACE loan or
well,
not.
or it depends on if you have a lease, because a lot of times you'll have a lease on the solar panels as opposed to owning them outright. And so
hers were to own outright, but it was on a payment plan, so they had to be paid off at closing. So that turned into an issue because solar panels are expensive. And let me tell you something. You know, one of the other things I learned, you probably know this, Ross, better than me. If you got solar panels on your roof and then you got to take the solar panels off, put the new roof on, put the solar panels back, that's expensive. Taking the panels off and putting them back are super expensive. It's more than a third of the cost of the solar panels. Right?
Yes.
So
Just
that's
the
a
labor?
just the labor. So the house didn't have a lot of equity because they bought it so recently, but they were missionaries, right? Carl and Peggy are missionaries. So they got a new assignment in Georgia, and they really needed to sell. So we got the deal done and we closed yesterday. Everything okay, Mike?
I thought I was hearing something somewhere, like
okay.
an article somewhere, like
Oh.
a voice, but maybe it was just
Oh,
in my
I'm
head.
hearing it too. It's outside. It's
Oh, okay.
outside.
Okay.
So
I'll take care of that.
So thank you, Peggy and Carl, for choosing to use us. Again, we help with the cleaning, and we brought in a cleaning service after they left to move to Georgia to take care of everything.
Nice.
And we had a closing on yesterday. So congratulations to Peggy and Carl. And thank you, Muriel, for referring us. Referrals are the lifeblood of our business. People, if you've been listening to our show for a long time, but you don't need our help, if one of your friends needs homeowners insurance, if one of your friends has questions about refi or what interest, how interest rates may impact their life for mortgages.
Can I afford a house?
Can we afford a house? Realtor stuff. If you have legal questions like Jimmy was talking about, you don't know how many people in the last month have called us, not for real estate, not buy or sell, get insurance, going to refi or get a mortgage, but they're like, I have this legal problem with my divorce, or I'm having a problem with my title because of something that happened in the past, or I've got a big probate question, an estate question because it wasn't set up properly in my relative passed, right? We help with all of that stuff. People call us all the time for that. We get you over the law office of Paul A. Krasker. We get you to try to entitle. So if you have any kind of real estate needs, you got to think of us as your resource to answer any of the questions you have. And the last thing we also do, which is not like what people would expect, we're also really good at helping you with your student loan debt. So if you have student loan issues, you got to pick up and give us pick up the phone and give us a call.
We're also good at helping you get your credit on track,
Which
kind of, you made me think about that when you said student loans. So yeah, it's just, we know a lot of stuff, right?
Mike's really good at knitting.
Yeah.
If you need anything
I do.
knitted.
I don't knit, but I do own a sewing machine, and I'm not afraid to use it, guys.
You're not afraid to use it?
Yeah.
Those
I know how to use it.
Oh, I
for
got
me.
stuff for you then. I got stuff. I'm a bachelor. You should do it for me. So
I was gonna say, but I was making calls to people who closed last year about homestead exemption, just make sure they're doing it. So I called a former client, and it just so happens his mother, so his grandfather, so his mom's dad had something where he was in forced place insurance, and so we were able to give him over to Ross. And it's like, that's an example of, like, you may not need the service, but you might know somebody who knows somebody who needs something. And it's just nice to have somebody you can talk to about it. And how can we be at the fingertips there? Like, cause it just comes up like, hey, I need to know this about credit, or this about mortgages, or this about insurance.
it's such a hotline with us too, because you could go to our Florida Talk Real Estate page and you can actually pick a calendar time and have me call you personally at the time set in that calendar.
Fireside chats with Jim.
We can do that, right? But
12 a.m.
if you call, what's going to happen is I'm going to find out what your needs are, and then I'm going to get you to the right person in the group. And if we don't have the answers, we're going to research and get the answers for you. And that's the important part.
And when you talk to anybody on the team, nobody's selling you any. It doesn't end with like a sales pitch.
Yes, we're not. I just met with a woman yesterday, Colleen, who's thinking about, we're going to talk to you, Mike. This is the one where she may buy a home with a reverse mortgage. And she was like, you can do that? You can buy a home with a reverse mortgage? And I'm like, yeah, Mike has taught us the tools in order to do that. And when it makes sense, because it doesn't always make sense. But for some people that are seniors, that might be a really affordable outlet to go ahead and do this. So I sat down with her yesterday and we comped her property. And there's a lot of big question marks because the community's going through a lot. And then we comped the property and figured out what was going on that. Then we talked about generically right now about what type of house she would buy if we sold the unit. And
Forgot there was ice in there.
And then we're going to do some more research next week. And I figure in about a week or so to 10 days, we'll have a plan that either it makes sense for her to do what she's trying to do, which would be selling the condo and then taking that money and setting up her situation for a more affordable future, or if it might be better for her just to hold tight and stay where she is. So we're going to figure all that out for her together. And it isn't my answer. I'm giving her answers to questions she needs to ask, but it's her decision as to what the right result is. And that's what we do here at this team. We just help you. We're not trying to trick you into doing something or not. And let me tell you something. There's a lot of stuff going on right now because the economy is so slow in real estate. It's a very, very slow real estate market. At the State of the Union address with Gary Keller last week, he gave the State of the Union address, and he does this every year at the National Convention. And he's been pretty sharp in the 10 years I've watched him give these addresses.
Did you guys do standing ovations for every other line?
No, because it wasn't a happy, because it wasn't really
half
a
the room
happy.
stands up, the other
Yeah,
half did not.
Yeah, like last night.
Any heckling?
Or 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
Was it 2 nights ago or last night? I can't
It was
remember.
Thursday night.
Thursday
yeah.
night. But no, there wasn't any jumping up and going crazy because the report was not fun.
Tissues at the end of each aisle.
Well, yeah, kind of. What we found out was, which I kind of knew already, but I knew that we had very slow sales last year. Remember, I've talked about this. Sales are down 25 to 30%, right? But what I didn't realize, but prices haven't been dropping. But what I didn't realize is the amount of sales across the nation. We barely hit 4 million units. Our average over the last 12 years has been about 5.5 million units.
Right.
So if you're 1.5 million short,
Is that Keller or is that
no, nationwide.
Nationwide,
So we
yeah.
sell between, in 2009 was the last time we had a 4 in front of how many units, meaning 4 million. How many units we sold was 2009. That was the crash. We're in crash numbers right now. And last year we barely hit 4 million. And this year, all the national economists are predicting that we're going to have a stronger year. Gary isn't. Gary thinks that we're going to have a very flat year, if not the worst year recorded in the last 20 for sales. And he's
so
also
2024 compared to 2023, he thinks is going to be lower.
It'll either be equal or slightly lower. Like I think we are at 4 point. I don't have the chart in front of
It
me.
doesn't sound like a crash to me.
Well, when you're selling 6 million homes a year and you're only selling 4 million homes a year, that is 50% drop.
What was it? But what was it?
But I would say crash is prices.
No, but what was it in 2018, 2019?
How many homes? About 5.5 to 6 million
Yeah.
homes a year.
In those 2 years?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Even 2018, we were about 5.2 to 5.5.
I guess these interest rates are doing the
Interest
trick.
rates are creaming everybody, right?
Jeez.
So the thing is, Gary doesn't expect the interest rates to drop later until much later this year, if they drop at all. I wonder who else said that over the last several months. I should be Gary, right?
I don't know. We have a prediction show, and I think I was probably the most accurate so far. If that's our line.
What you said, they're going to go up or down?
Hold steady. No, I said hold steady around.
Yeah,
around
I
where
kind
they're
of think that's where we're at.
at. But
think
they'll drop later. I think that's a fair prediction.
I
don't know.
think that they are going to drop, but I don't think it's going to drop the way that people are expecting it to drop. Like we're not going to see a 5.
Well, we're talking about the Fed rate first and foremost. So I would say, is the Fed gonna lower their rate at some point this year?
I would bet yes, but I don't think it's going to be like the next meeting.
No,
I don't think it's the next meeting, which is I think in May or
well,
is it
yeah,
April? It might be April because they just had
yeah.
it. So the thing is that what Gary said in the State of the Union address was that we're expecting to have very low sales. He actually expects inventory to increase a little bit this year, which that's where we might start seeing the prices dropping.
Sure.
Prices.
Prices might slow down at that point. But I'm not sure that that's what's going to happen because we're in a very freaky market that we've never been in. And I think once the interest rates start dropping, we're going to see a frenzy of buyers running in, trying to grab what they can.
We've talked about that.
And yes, and it's like the tide coming in and out. And that's not the way to buy your house. And if that's the way you've been buying your house, I want to dip my toe in the market. Interest rates are 6. They got up to 6.5. I'm getting out. They went down to 6.25. I'm getting back in again. Don't do that. You have to have the plan. And if you can afford the house, what you're missing out on is while you're worrying about those interest rates, if you bought the house in 2021 or 2022, you'd already have 15 to 25% of equity in the house that you didn't have when you bought it. Okay. And the thing is you're missing out on that equity increase by waiting for the interest rates. And it could really not make a good plan. You could always change the interest rates later, but you can't necessarily control what the value of your house is. You could always change your interest rate when the interest rates get it better for you. So,
well, not always.
What do you mean?
I mean, the market conditions have to be right. So rates have to be favorable. Market values have to be favorable, right? You can't guarantee a refinance. Just because rates go down doesn't mean your home value is where it needs to be to do a refinance, right?
Well, we haven't had any negative equity, Mike, in over 15 years.
I'm not saying you're saying always. I'm just saying little caveat.
Well,
asterisk.
There's truth to that.
Not always.
Yeah,
right?
you're
Market
right.
Conditions have to be favorable, and the goal it needs to achieve the goal that for your refi, whatever that goal is.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Over the last 15 years, have you found any time, well, let's say last 10 years, just to make it easier, 14, okay? Because that's when the economy started going back up with the prices and everything, okay, for real estate.
Okay.
So in the last 10 years, has there ever been a time where you could get a lower interest rate and it might not have been a good idea? I mean, assuming the interest rate was low enough that it would make sense to refi. Did you ever find?
I can think right off the top of my head.
Go ahead. I'm asking for
a neighbor
real.
of ours, Pete,
Mm-hmm.
right?
He
Pete.
just called recently?
No. I'm just saying he refinanced.
Right.
Rates were favorable. He refinanced and then he sold his house about 8 months later.
Oh, yeah.
And so he never recovered the cost of his refi.
I forgot about him refining the house.
Now listen, that was like stars aligning for him. And I'm sure he's not kicking himself too much.
He loves that house.
Yeah, because where he landed. But there's your example. That's the first thing that came to mind and it's not because he got a great rate on the refinance. The problem is refinance costs a little bit of money. You have to stay stay long.
Well, that part's true, but assuming that you're going to stay and everything, the interest rate shouldn't necessarily, as long as you could afford the payment. That's the thing, is that you got to afford the payment. We're not trying to tell you to squeeze into a house and then eat ramen noodles the rest of your life because your mortgage is too high. We're not saying that.
Yeah.
But if you're really serious about buying and you have the money and you're ready to do it and you're just sitting on the sidelines waiting, unless you're really an expert in real estate, you really don't know what's happening in this market. You need to sit down with a professional and say, what are you trying to achieve? Let's see what that looks like. Does it make sense or not make sense?
Yeah, and I just don't think there's any way to time the fluctuations we're talking about, Jim. Like, what's the Fed going to do later this year? What's going to happen with buyers? What's going to happen with inventory? Those, like, trying to time those details is almost impossible. And that doesn't mean, like, maybe you have a good feeling about that and you're like, I'm not getting out there until rates are here and home prices are here. That's fine. But you have to be able to assess that and be able to, and I'd say this a lot, you got to pull the trigger when the target presents itself. And if you're not loaded, if you are a buyer, meaning like if the conditions are correct, you will buy something because it makes sense for you and your family and your budget and everything. It makes sense. But if you're not poised to like watch these things as they come across your radar screen and be able to spot the one that is the right one for you, if you're not like positioned to do that, then you're going to miss the boat. You're going to be too late, right? You're going to wait. I'm waiting for rates to be 5.5. Boom, rates hit 5.5, and now I'm going to start my shopping.
Well, guess what? $150,000 more.
You and everybody else who've been waiting for rates to come down just as their sole trigger, they're all now going to come out at the same time, and you're like in the middle of that pack as opposed to leading it or being out even in front of it, because when those things hit, you're like ready, like, okay, now this house before the prices go up as a result of buyers coming out and inventory tightening, you're ready to go. Like, you hit that rate and you're ready to go.
And that's why you got to know your numbers and be locked and loaded and ready. And you don't have to pull the trigger until you're ready to pull the trigger, but you got to be locked and loaded and ready.
And holy cow, none of that means like, hey, just because you talked to Mike and he got you pre-approved, like, you got to buy now within the month or you can't buy. No, it's not like that. It's like, you talk to Mike, you know, you're positioned. Especially if there's anything you need to work on, now you have a chance to work on it. But if you're good, green light across the board, then you can just couch surf and know your numbers, and you can just wait around for the right thing to present itself. And it could be that it doesn't happen this year. Okay, no big deal.
And if you took that advice and you're in a certain area of Florida, you might be able to take really great advantage of the bubble pop and pop. Can you make a popping sound, Jimmy? Is there any popping? I mean, on the thing.
On the board?
on the board.
Do you have a balloon popping?
How about this one?
That sounds like it. So we're on the next segment in 3 minutes or 4 minutes or whatever it is, 2 minutes and 2 seconds, like Chuck Cooley used to say back in the day. We are going to talk about the bubble that popped in Florida, and you're not going to believe this.
The bubble popped. Well, Jim's going to let you know all about that. 888-973-7828. You want to know what your numbers are, like Mike was just talking about? Give them a call, and that's one way that you can find out. But don't go anywhere. We're going to find out about the bubble popping on the other side of this short break of 4 minutes on Real Radio 92.1 and 101.7.
The fine woman in your smart speaker knows what you need.
Really?
Don't ask how. Tell your smart device to play Real Radio 92.1 on iHeartRadio.
Hey, it's your boy Johnny C here, host of Florida Talk Real Estate. They're tops when it comes to helping people buy and sell houses. But Florida Talk Real Estate is so much more than that. For 5 years, I've watched these guys help thousands of our listeners with any real estate need. They couldn't do it without their sponsors, who are experts in their fields. Check it out. Jim DePola, powered by Keller Williams Realty. Their team specializes in helping people sell their house for top dollar, and buyers get great deals on the purchase of their home. That's what they did for me and my family, and I couldn't be happier that I hired them for my real estate transaction. Mike Rauch from the mortgage firm is one of our favorite guests on the show, and he is the mortgage guy. Whether you're looking for a refi or a mortgage to purchase a new home, Mike Rauch will get you the answers you need. The mortgage firm is licensed to do loans in Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia, and they have local offices that cover all of South Florida. So if you're thinking about a refi or a new mortgage, go to the mortgage guy, Mike Rauch, and find out what he can do for you. The Mortgage Firm, Inc., NMLS 189233, Florida license MLD 78, equal housing lender. The law office of Paul A. Krasker has been specializing in real estate law for nearly 25 years and has the professional team you need. Upside down with your house, Paul's team can help you conduct short sales, loan modifications, even if you're behind on payments. They also help you with foreclosure defense and bankruptcy. They can even help you get a student loan modification and repair your credit to get the score you need. Paul's full-service team has helped thousands of our listeners, and they can help you too. Trident Title LLC is the largest privately owned title company in Florida. When you need a title company to complete a refi, home purchase, or sale, Trident Title has got you covered. Not only do they offer competitive pricing, Trident Title has attorneys on staff to make sure if you have bumps in the road declaring title that you can get the job done. Beware, not all title companies in Florida have attorneys on staff. Trident Title does and complies with all the new federal regulations released last year. Ross Komarinetz, owner of Brightway Insurance, has been helping our listeners get great rates on homeowners insurance plans. Haven't checked your homeowners insurance policy in a while? This is a great way to help reduce your monthly mortgage payment. Ross can also help with renters and auto insurance. Ross is only a phone call away and can usually get the answers you need same day.
Call Ross today at 561-425-6228 or drop by his office at 873 Donald Ross Road in Juno Beach.
So now you know why I'm happy to be part of the Florida Talk Real Estate Show, the longest running real estate show in Florida. And all these sponsors are just a phone call or a click away. Just call 888-973-7828. That's 888-973-7828. Or go to floridatalkrealestate.com. That's floridatalkrealestate.com. And don't forget to use the most accurate search engine to find your new home or ask for a free home valuation because floridatalkrealestate.com has you covered. That's floridatalkrealestate.com.
The Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys Studios.
Have you been in an accident? Call Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys at 1-800-747-FREE.
That's 1-800-747-3733.
Real Radio 92.1 is WZZR West Palm Beach, an iHeartRadio station.
Listen on your free iHeartRadio app for all your music, radio, and podcasts. Free never sounded so good. This is Florida Talk Real Estate with Jim DePola and Johnny C. Got a question for the show? Call us live at 1-877-927-6969.
Welcome back to Florida Talk Real Estate, your one-stop real estate shop for all your real estate needs. By the way, thanks for tuning in to Real Radio 92.1. Thanks for tuning in to Real Radio 101.7. Hey, if you're not in the area, make sure you got the iHeartRadio app on your phone. You can take us anywhere in the state, anywhere outside of the state, as we're finding out more and more Jim can help us all over the area as well as the rest of the Florida Talk Real Estate team. Hi, glad to be here with you. And I'm glad to have our good friend Mike from the mortgage firm. Mike, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing great, Jimothy. How are you,
Excellent,
sir? Yeah?
excellent. Thank you so much. What a nice day outside, huh?
It was nice coming in. Yesterday afternoon was beautiful. So yeah, I'm loving this. I'm loving this weather this time of year.
Getting back into a little bit of the 80s, you know.
Yeah.
A little of the humidity is coming back, though.
You feel that?
Yeah.
But what do you expect? You know, Florida. What are you gonna do?
When you need homeowners insurance, there's only one place to go. That's talking to our good friend Ross Komarinetz with Brightway Insurance, Juno Beach. How you doing there, Ross?
I'm doing well. It's supposed to get hot today. That's what I hear. It's supposed to be on the warmer side today.
Well, you were just saying you were 85? Cold, so perfect.
It will be perfect. I'm looking forward to getting out and getting hot.
Actually, yeah, with that studio over there, it's a bit nipply.
Yeah.
You getting ready to get back out into the water soon too, Ross?
I mean, the water. I don't know. They're doing that Lake Okeechobee release that kind of.
Does that have an algae bloom or something?
Well, they have to drain the water from Lake Okeechobee, and they drain it through,
right up in your neck of the woods.
I think it affects the northern, the Treasure Coast more than it affects us. But you still kind of see it a little bit. So just looking forward to getting it when that's gone.
All right. Well, and of course we have our fearless leader here as well, Jim DePola, owner of Florida Home Pros, a top producing Keller Williams team. Jim, tell us about his bubble.
Yes. So I think that we're having a bubble pop in Florida, the only area that we know of that we're really seeing a decline in prices right now for real. And we're not just talking about sales. So one thing that people aren't getting right now is sales are very, very slow, but prices are still holding pretty tight. But that's not what's happening in this part of Florida. So what I'm trying to do is research right now. I just looked up 2021 and 2022 for the hurricane season, and I can't remember which hurricane flattened the West Coast recently. It wasn't last year, right? It was 2022.
I want to say it was 20.
We're all looking.
Or maybe even 2021, and I can't see it.
Ida? Was it
I want to say it was Ida.
Idalia in 2023. Ian,
that was it. Ian, thank you. So when Ian hit this area, which is out by Sarasota, Cape Coral, all that stuff out there, this is what happened. There were so many homes that got completely flattened or had to be torn down because they were just not reparable. And then what happened was they were using insurance. The owners are using insurance to rebuild the houses new, but they didn't have any intent of moving back into the house. What they were thinking was, this is according to listing agents from that area that I met at the National Convention, a lot of those people that were building again, like completely rebuilding from the ground up, they were like, there's no inventory. I'm just going to sell the property when we're done. And they thought they'd actually make maybe even a profit on doing that. And what they found out is, and we're just getting to the beginning of the houses that were finally finished and ready to get a certificate of occupancy. And those are going on the market and they're falling flat right now. The agents are saying nobody's picking them up. There's so many choices of the new construction and there aren't enough buyers. And I said, what's going on with that? She goes, interest rates and insurance. And they're like, that's a double whammy. And they don't care that it's new construction. And we're having a hard time selling them. Now, that area, that general area was ground zero for the crash that happened in 05-06. That was ground zero. Lehigh Acres, actually Cape Coral.
Like the canary in the coal mine? That's that area?
Yeah, now the thing, well, back then that was from, the reason why that area crashed was because there was so much speculation going on. People were buying half lots back then. You could buy these lots in Lehigh Acres and Cape Coral, some of them waterfront, where you'd buy a lot and it's like, great, I have a waterfront lot, I'll sell it or I'll build on it later and sell it. But those lots out there, you had to get at least two of them or you couldn't build. And a lot of people didn't know that when they were investing because they weren't sophisticated enough. So they had a half lot. Then when the market crashed and they went to sell it because they didn't want to pay the taxes on the land, their land wasn't worth anything because you couldn't do anything with it because they didn't have the lot, and somebody owned the one to the left of you and one to the right of you, and you were trapped. This is more about the economics and mechanics of what happens when you have a hurricane more than anything
I was
else.
going to say, because so interest rates and insurance, I could see that definitely driving up the cost of the housing obligation. What about the fact that a hurricane just like tore through there? Like, should that play any part, like psychologically, that hey, this was hit by a hurricane, so the chances of it getting hit are good, or would it be the opposite? Like, it just got hit, so the chances of it getting hit again are like really low.
I don't know about from the buyer's perspective, but we kind of know what the answer is from the seller's perspective on that because they're selling. So they're like, I'm done, right? Stick a fork in it. I'm out of here, right?
But that doesn't mean they're afraid of the hurricane. It just means there's an opportunity for them, or at least they thought there was. Rebuild, sell brand new home. Sounds like a good plan to me. If you got somewhere else to go,
right? Until the market gets flooded, and now, right?
Yeah.
So it's just interesting, even though that we've been defying gravity, as I've been saying forever, must go up. Interest rates are going up and prices were going up for quite a long time. Our prices have pretty much flattened out. They're not going down, but they're not increasing by a large amount. Last year, we had just about 5% appreciation in South Florida. That's still a very healthy appreciation since we started the show in 2012. But compared to the last 3 years, that's pretty bad appreciation. But the other years were so unrealistic. If you're using the other years as your barometer, you're always going to be disappointed most of the time because it's very rare to get double-digit appreciation year after year.
3% is normal?
In Florida, it used to be 3 to 4%.
3 to 4.
So we used to be 3 to 4, and everybody else used to be 2 to 3. But I got to tell you that 3 to 4, we have not seen a 3 to 4 appreciation in a very, very long time. So I almost don't want to say that anymore.
Right.
I feel like 5% is kind of like almost expected now.
Yeah.
I don't know how long that's going to last.
Do you know off the top of your head, like where we are compared to like August versus where we are today? Like
August last year?
Yeah. Just any appreciation between then?
Actually, I'm going to
appreciation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me see. Hold on.
Just with it,
here's what I'm going to do, Rauch. I'm going to look at the rates. What were the rates? So September.
I've got that.
Yeah, I'm saying like August.
That was right before the big hike in November.
Exactly. So like July through the remaining half of 2023, rates pretty much like might call it a spike, right? Because we went from 6 point. Well, let's even go back further. Now I'd say 6.7 all the way up to almost 8%.
Where were we in August?
In August, we were
6.9,
roughly.
So call it 7.
Yeah,
so that's where there was that jump from 7 to 8, and it was really a kind of a
jarring,
a panic time a little bit in the mortgage world because you're like, holy cow! If it keeps doing this, buyers are getting priced out of the market.
Yeah.
Right.
Buyers were just getting priced out. Now since then, it came back down, went back down to basically August levels. Recent little bump up, but we're pretty much almost where we were in August.
I remember that increase because we were
right in the
we were
middle.
locked in at that point, and thank goodness we did lock in. Thanks again to you, Mike. It was
I didn't lock you
advice. You didn't, but you gave us that advice to do such a thing, and boy, it saved us a bunch of money.
Sure.
If you were buying over the last year, if you bought between December of last year and February of this year, that was the best interest rates that you were getting in the last 12 months. And it was roughly 6.5%.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, did we experience any little appreciation between August and now?
Yeah. So
just because we just had the conversation about, well, I just want to sit on the, wait till rates get to a certain spot.
Yeah.
And if you've been waiting since, just randomly picked August and you're waiting for the rate to get there, but you just missed out on, a little bit of.
Yeah, I would
appreciation.
If you were actively shopping in that time, I don't think housing prices have come down at all,
right?
And probably gone up slightly.
Yeah.
That would be my guess. Probably slightly.
Slightly.
Could
because
be
I'm wonky,
flat.
I have the answers. Jimmy D got the answers because I'm so wonky because I keep all this stuff, right? So August 2023, can you believe I'm pulling this up? I have it already. August 2023, our median sales price back then Ross, was $600,000 in Palm Beach
Come
County.
down
That's pretty much South Florida. You know how much appreciation year over year we had
from the prior
August to August 2023 to August 2022?
11.
0. It was flat, right? It was flat that year. I mean, from month to year over year, it was flat that month,
Oh,
right?
okay,
So
gotcha.
a year ago was 600,000, and then that month it was 600,000. Now we had gotten up to over to 620 last year. In 2023, we hit as high as 620.
What are we at now? Like 580?
Well, that's what I'm going to find out right now. Let's see here. Now, I didn't pull up February, and February might have came out, but I didn't want to talk about February of this year until AJ comes on. So we're going to have AJ come on later this year. We're going to have him on hopefully next week, and we're going to talk about the stats.
Well, that is later this year.
Yeah, I guess that's later
True.
this year, right?
True.
Technically. Where's the 2024 stuff? November 2023.
It's like when Tiffany asked me to do something at the house, I would say later. Like her definition, what she hears when I say later is different than mine. She might think like
Much different,
later this afternoon. I'm thinking like later in the year when I feel like, you know, we can accomplish this.
Later in life.
FloridaTalkRealEstate.com.
There you go. I don't have the February stats or the January in front of me, but I do have the Palm Beach stats for 2023 in December.
Palm Beach
just
Island?
to give us an idea. So
or Palm Beach County.
Palm Beach County.
Oh.
Now, remember I said in July of 2023 we were at 600. December of 2023 we're at 580.
Okay.
But year over year in December, we're up 6.4%. So it was 6% appreciation. I thought it was 5. So it was 6.4%. So even with these highest interest rates we've had since 2009, we still went up 6.4%. So that's kind of why I've been saying we've been defying gravity. We're getting appreciation, but we're at the highest interest rates we've had since 2009. But the prices are not dropping yet. And that's always a function right now of inventory. If we have a change in inventory, it's probably going to be because of unemployment. And we don't have unemployment yet, right? We're just not at an unemployment's just not on the on the horizon right now.
And it sounds like though, like to Ross's point, if you had been actively watching, maybe not actively shopping, but actively watching, and you started August of 2023, you would have seen where it stood. And it's possible that at some point between then and today, rates have gone up, but they have also recovered.
Gone down. Yep.
And it's possible you could have got the house in the neighborhood that you wanted slightly lower today or this last month than you could have in August or September, right? You could have, had you been watching. Now, you could never predict it, like, oh, I'm going to wait for February of 2024. But if you had been watching, you could have spotted that. And maybe that saved you, I don't know, $50 a month on your payment.
Over 30 years.
Yeah, you know,
something
like
over
that.
30 years.
Yeah, of course. I'm not saying like don't discount that, but that could have been like, here's my max number. I'm, $3,000 a month. That's the max I'll go. And 3,100 was too much. Well, you might have been able to get into that house in that neighborhood that you've been having your eye on for 3,000 a month, right? And so you wouldn't have known that unless you actually have tools where you can see those numbers and kind of calculate it. But that's the distinction. Like, you can't predict it, but if you're watching, you could hopefully,
if you know you're ready.
Yeah.
You have to
assuming you're like ready to make an offer, essentially. And not only, of course, it's not just about getting into contract. You actually have to get to the closing, so that's why you have to do the pre-approval and stuff up front, right? The goal, Jim, and this is so funny, the goal is not to get a pre-approval letter. The goal isn't to find the right home and get into contract. The goal is actually you have to cross the finish line. You have to be able to close.
You got to close.
Right. So just have to keep that in mind. It's amazing how many like real estate agents, they're like, oh, I get a pre-approval. I got to take them out shopping. No, you want to make sure you're shopping at something that you actually close on. So critical.
You got to know your numbers. We're going to actually be doing an event in April. We haven't picked the date or the location, but we're going to do a event called Know Your Numbers. In that number, and when I say know your numbers on everything. And this is going to be a great opportunity for people to just stop in, say hello to the crew wherever we set this thing up at, and sit down and just talk about your situation. So if you have questions about, I don't know if I should refi my house, is my interest rate worth refining or not in today's market. I don't know if I should sell my house and buy a new home because the interest rates are so high, and the interest rate I got on my house right now is so low, and I'm very confused.
Yep.
If you're wondering, my insurance is just too darn high, and I'm trying to figure out, can I get better insurance, or is there a more creative way to make it more affordable for me? If you have questions about the title of your property, maybe you went through a divorce or somebody passed and you have title issues or something. We have all the people for all of that stuff to answer the questions, and we'll sit down and actually analyze your situation, and we'll have all the disciplines there all in one stop, and you can actually go from one person to another person, and map out your whole plan.
And I was thinking there might be an opportunity if you're looking to move to the West Coast and you're looking for new construction and you're looking for a good value, there might be some opportunities in that area that you were talking about.
On the West. Oh, yes,
with the
exactly.
bubble.
That's true. We can get you to agents if you
Right.
like that area and you're thinking, I want a new construction home. And let me tell you, if the house got flattened, you're pretty close to the water, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, right? So you're talking about water near or waterfront property or ocean access property. We're probably talking about in most of those cases. You can get deals out there compared to what they have it on the market for. So there's deals out there. So if you're thinking West Coast and not East Coast, you got to give us a call. We'll get you to top agents out there. That's what we do. We have people from all over the state and the country at your fingertips. Just call us and we'll get you to the top people anywhere in the country you want.
888-973-7828 is that number. Give it a call anytime. Want to take a phone call, Jim?
Yes.
All right. We have Steve on the line. Steve is called 877-927-6969. Got a question for the pros. This is where you do it. Steve, welcome to the show.
Hey, everybody. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday, Steve. How can we help you today?
Well, I got a crazy question and a serious question. The crazy one is, I probably haven't ever experienced this, but if I hit the lottery, I think I'm going to take one of those castles over there in bloody England and have it transported helicopter style over here to Florida. Of course, it'll be on the news, but I want that. I'm like, I'm not going there. I'm bringing it to me. But here,
He doesn't want to live there. He just wants to bring it over. That's cool.
So I think the question is it insurable, Ross?
Yeah.
We'll find a way.
Can he get a quote?
Yeah. No, but on a serious note, from cities to counties to states, obviously, the United States, I'm going to leave it here for this real question. Do you get any break the more you buy property or a property with a house for each one? Like less, you have to pay for insurance or have to pay for property tax or anything, or does it just go up?
Do you mean that the more properties, like if you own 5 properties, that the 4 properties get a little bit of a discount because you're already paying property taxes on the first property?
Yeah, we'll go with that, for example.
So do you think that's what government does?
Sometimes you get bulk
Do you think
discounts.
government gives you the break?
Unfortunately,
You own 15 properties, Steve. So we're going to give you a discount on you're paying too much for property taxes. We're going to give you a discount. That's not fair to you, Steve.
Actually, just the opposite, isn't it?
Exactly. I'm being
You
sarcastic right now.
homestead your first one, and then everything after
I'm
that's
not being
even
sarcastic to Steve. I'm being
Yeah.
sarcastic to the situation.
No, but realistically, like the one place you might get some sort of bulk discount is maybe on an insurance policy. Like if you have some sort of overall policy that covers all the homes you own, I don't know if that's
Ross
cheaper
is
than-
giving a smirk.
No,
for
but
everybody
no,
not
Ross is like
watching.
that's like an
Yeah.
expensive type policy, right?
Yeah.
Like that's
It's more expensive that way.
It would
wealthy.
be more expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, so don't buy extra property, Steve, if you're just trying to save on property taxes. It's not going to work.
Oh. Hopefully you have those homes rented out, and so the more doors you have rented out, there you go. That's where your cash flow. That's where your savings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any other stuff, Steve?
No, I just wanted to comment on that because don't you remember that commercial? And I don't know if it was a government one or not, where the guy used to go, land, they don't make it anymore. You pick up the dirt out of the ground and he poured it down. You remember that commercial like about 20, 30 years ago?
No, I don't remember that one. Do you remember that one?
No.
I just like there's a campaign up in Port St. Lucie with billboards all over the place. Says, be a man, buy some land.
Yeah.
Did you ever
Really?
see those?
Yeah.
I just saw that.
I haven't
You
seen
haven't
those.
seen that?
No,
They're
I
all
haven't.
over US 1.
Oh,
I mean-
all right.
Yeah.
I don't go out that way.
Yeah.
It is true. They're not making any more of the land. I
That's
mean,
true.
so it's probably not a terrible idea if you can afford it to own property.
Just
Even
blank.
if it's vacant land, why not?
But you're not going to get discount from Uncle Sam or Uncle Florida,
Uncle
Mr.
Ron.
Florida, or whatever, Uncle Ron, on your property taxes. That ain't happening. They're trying to figure out how to raise them.
Unless if you own enough in the individual like municipality, you might be able to lobby. You know, you get into the tax authorities and maybe have some influence there, right? Like you're a big enough landowner, maybe. I mean,
Well, you can get well. There's
greasing the
agricultural
politicians.
exemptions and stuff like that. I'm
There's
thinking
that.
about
Getting
big
your zoning
ag
changed,
exemption.
you know.
Yeah.
Plant corn, get a cow.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's exactly it. If you have a cow on the land, you're getting the ag exempt. I
you
try to investigate that. There was a company that was renting cows to people just to throw on the land so they can get the agricultural exemption. So they weren't really farmers. They were just renting the cows to put on the land. And
Usually it's
I
the
went,
other way. You would rent your land to feed the cow. You get paid.
It's
for
no, they want, but right, but
Yeah.
they were doing it for tax purposes. There was a former mayor in a certain central county city that was feeding me all this information, saying, you gotta stop this. They're ripping off the system. The county would not budge. It's like if the cows, and they kept saying it over and over to me, if the cows on the land, you grant the ag. If the cows on the land, you grant the ag. And I'm like,
wow.
these guys are developers. So now that place is a Best Buy. Right. So the developer had all this great discounts on, agricultural exemption for a very long time. And then they sold it as a commercial property, which was the intent the whole time.
If the cow's alive,
No, it's the cows
ag
on the
applies.
land. If the
I'm
cows,
trying- I'm trying to make it
Yeah,
catchy.
my
A little
working
thing,
on it,
a riff, right? See with the wheels turning.
there you go.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I got a serious question on that. You know, Bridge Road and all that farming that they have out there,
Mhm.
selling, fruits and vegetables and cows. Maybe they're doing that out there.
Oh, they're definitely out there. But if they're doing the fruit and the vegetables and it's a real operation, they should get the discount. That's
Yeah.
what it's for. I just don't like when developers take advantage of the taxpayers by getting a discount that they probably shouldn't get.
You want them to contribute their
I want
fair
them to
share.
contribute their fair share. I don't
Sure.
want them to do a tax evasion thing.
Sure. They get a
But,
couple of
but
chickens.
that's
and-
me. That's me. Crazy. Who talks about like that in politics today? But Steve, thank you so much for giving us a call. I appreciate it.
That's the American way. Make more money, right? That's
Yep.
why you're on this TV or radio show. Make more
Yeah,
money.
exactly. Right. We're all trying to make
All right,
money.
guys, have a good weekend.
Thank
See
you.
you,
You
Steve.
too. You too. So, Ross, I wanted to ask you because we were talking about insurance was one of the reasons why people aren't buying these new construction homes on the West Coast right now because they're saying even insurance is going to be high. What would happen? We talked about this off air, but what would happen if somebody's house got plowed down by the hurricane? You rebuild it, but so it's brand new construction, but it's on a lot where a hurricane just leveled the house, a year ago. Do the insurance companies take that into consider? I know they already
They take like zip codes into consideration. So they may not be open in that zip code or their overall rate may be higher in that zip code, but your new construction in that zip code will be more favorable than your 1985 house with a 15-year-old shingle roof.
That makes sense. Now,
And it is considered new construction, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Now, let me ask you this, that if
Well, it'll be considered new construction if on the property appraiser's website it's considered
like a year built,
like the year built. Like sometimes, when people do remodels, they leave a wall.
Right, because they
And-
get a big discount.
Right. And so that negates it from being new construction with most carriers. Now, I do have a carrier that if it's been 100% replumbed, 100% rewired, new AC system, new windows, new roof, then they'll give it that year of construction.
Yeah. I've done that before when I was flipping properties. I would leave part of the house there so that I can get the discounts as opposed to new construction because you have to pay impact fees for new construction, things like that. So if you can keep a certain part, I think it's 20% of the house or something. If you keep 20% of the house, you can rebuild the rest of it and it won't be considered brand new construction. Get a little discount on the impact fees and everything. Now with the
which if you're doing that could hurt the potential buyer because they're not getting the new construction home, they're getting the old one. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
possibly. Yeah,
Jeez.
that's true.
It had
That's true. Now,
Positives and negatives on both sides.
lots to
Right?
think about.
one of the things I want to ask as a realtor to an insurance agent and a mortgage guy, right? Have you been seeing people going into contract on a house or a condo or anything else, thinking they could buy it, but then when you found out the insurance cost for it, they got blocked from the sale? Has that happened recently to you, Mike?
No.
So that's a good thing.
I think it's more that I'm at least in the ballpark of my estimates for insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see it myself. Like I definitely see. So my Tiffany works for there's a branch, a mortgage firm branch on the West Coast, and I see their insurance numbers. And sometimes those loan originators are putting just like a crazy number in there. I'm like, what are they doing?
$100 a month.
Yeah, like they're out there shopping. They got a $1,200 annual premium, and I'm like, I don't know which part of Florida would like that still exists for a single family home, or if it does. And it's I could see somebody getting burned there. So I learned that lesson long time ago that you have to know. I may even have learned it before I got into my very first deal. Like you got to have an accurate insurance number. Yeah.
But
so I certainly don't see
okay,
that.
so now I'm going to turn to Ross. So Mike, I believe, is a special example because he's a professional and he does things the way we do them. Have you seen other either mortgage companies, realtors, anybody saying, I can't buy this house anymore because the insurance quote you gave me is too high? Not that it's yours. I'm just saying that the insurance quotes are too high for the house. Have you seen anybody lose anything yet?
Recently? I did have, a couple recent ones where it was like, hey, we need to be at this number. There was one that was insanely unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
You
couldn't make that number work.
Right.
It
was less than half of what the real
what it could have been.
Yeah.
Oh, and that doesn't mean like for my clients. Yeah. Sometimes I got to go to Ross and say, hey, listen, we got to go with the budget or even, that their bare bones option just because it's so tight. But never like, hey, Ross, like you're going to give me an $800 policy. Right.
Yeah.
Or we can't close.
He's going to do it.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, the teachable moment, the reason why I'm asking those questions to the people listening, if you're out there trying to buy a property and your agent or your mortgage company isn't talking to you about insurance and the impact of insurance on the ability to buy the house, you might want to start looking at other people and talking to them too, because this should be part of the conversation that you have with your buyers all the time. Insurance needs to be talked about as part of this process correctly, and to have them understand what's happening in the market about it so they're educated. There's so many people out there right now that don't understand what's happening in the insurance market. And unfortunately, there's a lot of realtors that don't know, or real estate agents that don't really understand what's happening in the market. They don't do what we do. Almost every listing, if not every listing, we get a quote from Ross and put it on the listing so that any potential buyer can take that, or realtor can take that information from our listing and give it to the mortgage broker, say, hey, we're turning an offer in on this house, and here are 2 quotes that they had for that property.
Right. Legit numbers.
So that you could, as the mortgage person, can really calculate numbers to fine tune everything.
Sure.
It's really an important process of this buying process in today's market. And if you're not doing that, you could either get burned later, or you're going to have a lot of frustrations and a lot of extra stress at the very end of the closing that you're not prepared for.
We've got one I had to get Ross's help on where a home is not, essentially it's not insurable because of certain condition items. And I felt like it was a surprise to the agent, right? Like they had to wait to get their 4-point and their win mitt before they really knew. But there was so many problems listed on the inspection that I feel like you would have known. Like the real estate agent should have known, like, oh, wait a second, these are all going to be a major problem, but you're already in contract at that point. You've already spent,
oh wow,
$600 on inspections, which, listen, the purpose of the home inspection is to find stuff like this. But if the home isn't insurable because of certain things, like you have to be able to spot those things earlier, I would think, as a seasoned agent. Jim, you would have spotted some of this stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, our agents are trained where we would have seen some problems, said, hey, we got to talk about this. Every time I go to a house, I look at the electrical panel right away. right? Because people have to deal with the electrical panel if they've got aluminum wiring panels, right? What are some of the brands, Ross, that off the top of your head?
It's like Federal Pacific, Zinsco, Stablock.
What about Square
Sylvania.
D?
No, it's okay.
Square D's okay, but Sylvania is a problem too.
And you know what? Like, I mean, realistically, these days, it's not that big of an issue. Just because 99% of the time we're going to Citizens. And Citizens is going to be, $1,000 cheaper than the next best carrier, and they don't care about the electrical box.
I didn't know that.
As long as the overall electrical system is in good working order,
satisfactory.
And so I've had like inspectors say that the electrical system is unsatisfactory, and then say it has a Federal Pacific box, and gone back to them and said, "Hey, is the only reason you're marking this unsatisfactory is because of the box?" And they say yes. And I said, well, Citizens doesn't care. Can you change that? Because, if that's the reason, then it's not.
That's a really good tip.
So.
I didn't know that if you have Citizens, you don't have to worry about the aluminum wiring. So
aluminum wiring is different.
I thought that,
and it has to be kind of a certain kind. And again, if the overall electrical system is in good working order, they're fine with the aluminum.
You're thinking of the bus bars. So the bus bars in the back of the panel were the aluminum or copper.
Right. That's what.
So the aluminum bus bars were the problem with those
that's
panels.
what I used the term wiring, but yeah, that's exactly what I mean.
But there's homes that are wired with aluminum wiring.
Yes,
just like there's homes that have cloth wiring.
And again, cloth wiring is okay with Citizens as long as the overall electrical system is in good working order.
So the reason why we're bringing up the electrical panel is that they've determined over time that these type of panels, FPE, Federal Pacific, Stablock, Zinsser, Sylvania, Zinsco, those have a potential fire hazard because they get too hot, and also the wires get loose and they arc or something.
One of my friends and clients had a fire in her garage due to a Federal Pacific breaker box.
And that's why they don't. Insurance companies typically don't like those boxes, and they usually, many times when I was doing short sales, that box would have to be, back 10 years ago, we'd have to rip that box out before closing and put in a new one in order to get the loan. I wanted to switch gears to something that somebody said a couple weeks ago, but we weren't on the show, and I kept the article. So the former Home Depot CEO, he came out 2 weeks ago and has said, hey, this labor market is fake. Our unemployment figures are too low. It's not real. We're going to have massive layoffs later this year. I think everybody's off on this market. And then
what's his motivation? Can I get a little background? Like, why is he doing this interview?
I think
or whatever?
This is about the inflation stuff, because the article also said that the prices aren't going up. Consumer prices are not going up inflation wise because of price gouging by companies, which is what that presidential State of the Union address was just talking about, the shrinkflation and all that stuff.
Yeah, the size of the bag of chips.
Yeah, that there's two. And Snickers, remember the Snickers bar?
Yeah.
So with this one, he's saying that it really isn't about that. It's really about supply chain and energy, and that energy costs too high and supply chain is screwed up, and that's why prices are so high. Give me a break. Okay, give me a break. Gas, although I've been watching it go up over the last several weeks, it's like up to $3.50 to $3.75 roughly. But we were in the 320s for a very, very long time. And I don't see that energy prices are spiking.
But
crazily.
Supply chain also mean like the shipping.
Yes.
Getting stuff
that
over
part I can agree with a little bit. Yeah. That part I can agree with. But the idea that energy is too expensive. Now, he's the CEO of Home Depot, and he's not just talking about gas prices. He's talking about real energy, like for tankers and everything else. So he might be looking at it differently. But
my question on that is like, okay, I can see it. So if your cost for acquiring the goods that you sell has gone up, you pass that on, right? You don't cut your profit margins. You want the same profit margins, therefore you sell higher. But when those costs come back down,
and people are still paying,
are you then reducing your prices across the board?
And that's why
I think that when you have big companies like Lowe's and Home Depot, and
they do stay competitive.
I'm sure they would. As soon as Home Depot can undercut Lowe's in their price of lumber, they're going to do it.
True.
Yep. Macy's and Gimbels. Remember from Christmas for Santa Claus movie, Miracle on 34th Street?
I remember the movie. I don't
remember Macy's and Gimbels were a competition, and then Santa Claus made them get together.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
there's some news about Macy's recently, right? Aren't they closing?
Yeah, they're closing
didn't
something in
somebody
San
bought 'em?
Francisco. They're closing down in San Francisco is the latest thing, because of all the mess out in San Francisco. I don't even understand what's going on with that stuff. Oregon, San Francisco,
Just the retail
they're just
shopping.
totally.
People shop differently. I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Like people shop.
Some
for
people
stuff
like to
differently.
pay, some people
Yeah,
don't.
some people don't
you
like
know?
stepping over human feces while they're walking into
yeah.
the store.
Wonder
You know what
why.
I mean? It's disgusting over there. So anyway, so here's the CEO for Home Depot saying, "Hey, everything isn't the way it looks. This unemployment is just totally junk. You know, unemployment figures are totally junk. The job growth is totally junk." So they had a report that came out 2 days ago yesterday. Job growth totaled 275,000 in February. Right. So
Which exceeded whatever they predicted.
which exceeded what they expected. So this guy is like all those other guys like Jamie Dimon. We're going into recession. We're going into recession. We're going to recession for 4 years. All I've been hearing from Jamie Dimon is about how we're going into recession. One day, Jamie's going to be right. One day. Okay. But not right now. And I don't have a game whether there's going to be a recession or not recession. I have nothing to gain or lose by that. But the thing is, the figures just aren't there yet. There's nothing there. Everybody's kind of got it in their head, but the stats aren't there. So we had a very strong job growth total in February, but the unemployment rate did raise from 3.7 to 3.9. Now, that's not a bad thing. People don't remember this, but when Clinton was president, and I went back and looked, we got down to 4.5% inflation and unemployment, and economists were freaking out that we had that our unemployment was
so
too low
Yeah.
at 4.5%. They really like it at 6 is what they were saying back then. 6% inflation, unemployment, that gives people for job mobility so they can move from job to job. So here we at 3.7, 3.9. What are you smiling about, Russ?
And when you say they, my tinfoil hat goes to, well,
Your
they just
meter.
want more people living off the government teat.
They want more people.
They people. Yeah, those
they,
bad they people, right? If we could just
keep,
find the days in the world,
yeah,
kick them out, we'd be all okay,
Yeah,
right?
There was something about, so February numbers were better than anticipated, but also the revised January numbers down from. So there's also whatever happens
they
there.
did down to revise December and January, Mike. Thank you very much. By 167,000 jobs for those 2 months. That's a lot of jobs.
It's
right. So they were off by 167,000 jobs on those 2 months,
which is interesting.
What I would wonder is if the real figure came out or the adjusted figure came out on the day the report came out and it was accurate, how people would feel. Because it's kind of fake when you go, wow, this job report is so strong. And then 2 months later, you go, oh, by the way,
it wasn't quite
that
so.
I think they should
December,
announce it the day, like when they're announcing the new ones. Be like, oh, by the way, we missed it by this much.
They did
last time, but they did.
That's where I'm reading.
Oh, okay.
But the thing is, it's like it's too late then because you've already heard the big news. Like, wow, job growth is so strong, and then 2 months later, not really.
Yeah,
you know,
wasn't
what I
quite
mean?
as strong.
Not
Still
quite
strong,
as
but
strong.
not quite as
But
strong
like
as we thought.
the preface for the new job one should be like, hey, here's what we predict, but also here's what we predicted last time, and here's
exactly.
what it was.
I agree with that, so that people could be informed.
You know, so you got both.
Or they just put out like
nobody
their margin? They're like, it's this number plus or minus 50% margin of error, right? Like, so like, oh, okay, all right, we're close, but
because at that point, as long as you could just say whatever you want, nobody's
Kind
going
of.
back and
exactly,
caring.
exactly.
Which has always
pretty
been
much what happens, right?
It's
Mhm.
always been like, and we talked
say
about it, Jim. Like you say this thing, and then but you can manipulate the numbers to get the messaging across that you want. And so it's like, are they really manipulating, or is this just how it's done? So you almost have to trust that whatever they're coming out with, that's their best guess at the time. Then they revise it down, so they're admitting fault. But
why don't they just wait until
they have it?
Give it like 2 months and be like,
Yeah,
hey, we're
that's
going to
what I'm
announce
wondering. Why don't
jobs
they
report
talk
from 2 months ago?
Yeah, why don't they talk in February about what happened in December, March, what happened in January, and get the numbers right instead of telling us something and go, by the way, we were wrong when we said all that stuff. It just doesn't make sense.
You
to me.
can't start the revisions until you have the report finalized. Then you can, you have to finish that step.
Well,
and then it goes to review.
Then you sit on it.
Yeah.
For 2 months.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm so glad I'm not in government. That's all I know. But a couple other things. Wages are slowing down, so we only had 0.1% growth in wages in February. but we're still 4.3% higher for wage growth compared to a year ago, which is higher than inflation,
Are those revised
supposedly,
numbers?
which is higher than inflation. Who knows if these numbers are right? I'm just telling you
Yeah.
what they're telling me. But the bottom line is that the bottom line on this is that we're not seeing anything that is weak in the job market right now. Even though that they changed things around, we still have a very strong job market, because if those 167,000 jobs in December and January that they took away for whatever reason, we're still at only 3.9% unemployment. So we're a very low unemployment rate. Actually, in my mind, an unhealthy employment rate. But with the interest rates this high, maybe it's okay that, where it is. Now, where was the big growth? Healthcare. Of the 275,000 jobs, healthcare was 67,000 of them.
Dude, you can't drive down the street without like a new 24-hour medical clinic or
I know
medical
it's
center,
big.
or
It's big.
it's everywhere.
It is. And 52,000 were government jobs. I don't know where they came from. And then restaurants added 42,000. Those were the big push. Okay. So we're not seeing any weakness in unemployment. We're not seeing any weakness in job growth. We're not seeing any weakness in people not making their mortgage payment. We're still well under 2% of people either being 30, 60, 90 days late or in foreclosure. It's almost like we're way below. I just read that we're at the nationally historic lows for that. We haven't had anything. So everybody waiting for this big shoe to drop. Maybe it's going to come someday, but it's not going to come soon, meaning like the next month or two or something, unless something really crazy happens, which in this world could definitely happen. So I just, if you're trying to weigh the economy and you're the one that thinks the economy is just so bad, most of the people that bought houses over the last 4 or 5 years are pretty happy that they bought the house, and they've seen a large amount of equity over time, and they probably had a better interest rate than you can get at this exact moment. Most of those people over the last 4 years, I'm not talking about the last year, but even the ones that paid the higher interest rate, their houses are appreciating really well. I remember Susan, one of our favorite customers from 2021, she bought a property because she really was tired of being a renter. She bought a small home that needed to be fixed up. It had the backyard for her dog. Remember that?
Yeah.
And the value of her home was increased so much in that 3 years that it didn't matter about the interest rates or anything. She's doing so healthily about the value, the value of her home right now, that it would be stupid of her to have stayed a renter for those 3 years.
Yeah,
So
I think
everybody
so.
telling her, oh, you're paying too high interest rate, you're paying too high prices, and now she looks like a genius compared to those people that said that.
And I think we always talk about like what makes you a buyer. So for me, the buyer is getting the home and there's no set timeline for it have to exit that home. Right. And so when you talk about appreciation, it's nice to have it. You kind of know in the back of your head that we could have depreciation a little bit, not big crashes or anything. But if you told me, hey, Mike, I got to buy right now, but I'm moving out of town in 2 years, I definitely need to sell for profit in those 2 years. I would say, well, there's no guarantee that you could do that. But if you give me a bigger timeline, I say 100%, right? Like this home will be worth more in the future than it is right now. Right. At some point. And hopefully the longer the time period you have, the more more predictable that is.
It's true. And also it's your home. We're not
Also,
talking about
living
investment
there, right,
property.
versus
It's your
renting.
place, and that's what people kind of forget. They look at their houses. Florida is very unique in this way. I've always said that people in Florida have a higher interest in real estate, in the real estate market, than let's say like Iowa or Kansas and stuff, right?
The house as the investment, not
it's almost
necessarily
like they treat it like a stock or something in a way. And California's like that, I'm sure. Like parts of New York are like that. Down
Many
here,
of us have been through that cycle where that happened, right? Like when you bought a house, it appreciated, you sold it, and you got a chunk of money in your pocket that you invested into the next house, probably.
Glenn from Facebook had some comments that I just wanted to bring up. Thank you, Glenn, for listening to the show, and please like our page and let other people know about it. He was saying every job growth number has been revised downward for the last 4 months, which I believe to be true. with the last one being revised down by 100,000. I read 167,000. He goes, don't report on the good numbers if you're not going to report the downward revisions. I totally agree. That's why we talked about it on the show.
Yeah.
So that's a really good point, Glenn.
We even had some fun with it.
Yeah, we actually had some fun. So I totally agree with you. You got to give everybody all the information so they can be informed and not just sway it to your way. And let's face it, when you have politics involved, you really got to spend a little time and not just read it and just take it for gospel on either side. It doesn't matter. You got to read it because everybody's got an agenda.
I feel bad. We lost the ability to say the term like trumped up numbers. You can't say that because it was never related to Trump at all. It was just like trumped up, meaning they're fluffing them up somehow to make it look good.
I wonder how Trump is that. I think that's related to cards, right? Isn't it something to do with cards or
Trump
something?
cards.
Trump cards. Yeah, that's what I was trying to remember. Because I was just thinking about trumped up a couple of days ago. I wonder where that came from.
Yeah, it comes from the world of cards.
Yeah, the cards.
Yeah.
So, hey, Roberto. Hey, Joyce. Johnny C's mom's on the show watching, so thank you. Hey, Roberto. Roberto had some questions that we were able to get him answers for this week. We did not try to high pressure him to buy or sell or do anything. We're just trying to get him answers, so we're real deal. Roberto, say something in Facebook that I'm telling you the truth. That I'm telling the truth right now to the audience.
Sold him a house, got him a mortgage. We sold him some insurance.
Yeah, we've been there and done that with
at
him
the
for a
law
while.
firm.
Yeah.
You know.
So, so we're his go-to guy when he needs help on questions and stuff like that, which I think is awesome. And thank you for trusting us on that. Let's see. Oh, here's something that I found interesting. And this is the reason why I'm bringing it up, because there's a lot of families that could use this type of house. Remember Ron and his wife, and then the kids are buying from, I don't want to use their last name, and they're buying the kids are buying new construction down here?
Yes.
He had talked to you a couple of times.
Sure. I was curious about how things are going on that front.
The sister ended up buying the house directly from the developer, and they got approved for the developer. I'm still nervous about it because I don't trust developer financing, but they're saying they're good for the money. So, what's happening right now, especially in South Florida, developers are changing the layout and floor plans a lot, where they're actually making out separate living quarters for multi-generational family.
Yeah.
So a lot of the new construction homes now have I'm going to call it a mother-in-law suite, even though that isn't appropriate in today's thing.
Guest quarters.
But a guest quarters or mother-in-law suite or multi-generational suite.
Detached or attached?
Some of them are detached and some are attached. But it's becoming a big thing because there are a lot more multi-generational needs now than ever before. I think in the 80s that was really popular too. And then it kind of went away for a while. And now it looks like families want to start moving back in together.
Or maybe they have to, economic reasons.
And it might be that too.
You think it might have something to do too with kids staying home with mom and dad longer than they used to?
I'm so off on the generational change. Like, what's the new generation? Is it X or
Z? Well,
it's
Z is the youngest, right?
I kind of lost it after millennials. I lost track of all the different, because I'm old, right?
Yeah.
Because I lost a lot of track. But there is some truth to that. But what Gary Keller said at the State of the Union, the Gen Xers, if that's the newest group, they are going to be the ones buying houses faster than the millennials. The Gen Xers are very serious about owning their own home.
Right.
That's what I'm hearing.
Right.
They're much more serious about that than
Wait, are Gen X
millennials.
after millennials? You're talking Gen Z.
I think
Gen
you might
Z,
have the
Gen
wrong.
Z.
Whatever the
Gen
last
Z might be,
generation
I
is.
feel like I'm
'Cause
Gen X.
I'm Gen X.
Yeah, I'm Gen X.
Yeah.
You're Gen X. You're
I'm
Gen
X.
X.
I'm baby
We're-
boomer.
You are?
I'm on the
You're
bubble.
barely,
the end of the
yeah.
boomer?
My ex always made sure that I was the
Okay.
baby boomer,
All
but I
right.
was right on that one year.
So
I
you're going to
could go
be sucking
either way.
our Social Security resources.
Yep, I'm
here.
the one that's going to
Jeez.
suck it all. Hey, you guys are
Yeah.
losers. I paid. I'm getting mine. You get yours later.
Tiffany, my Tiffany
Hurry up,
is
get it quick.
a millennial. She's actually the
Is she?
first year of the millennial
okay.
generation.
When I wished her a happy birthday, I said, "How does it feel to be 30?" And she just laughed.
32.
Yeah, exactly. How does it feel to be 30? She just laughed at me.
So I think it's more the parents living with the kids as opposed to
Yes,
like
it's more
buying
the
something.
kids are buying something, the parents are moving in, than the
Right.
parents
Okay.
buying for the kids.
Yeah.
So,
But kids are staying longer.
Yeah,
Tell me
they
about
are staying longer, but apparently
in our house.
but
I mean,
apparently though the new youngest generation, they're very serious about trying to buy homes, and the millennials not so much. They're very far behind in home buying. As far as generational, we're talking about, they just weren't big home buyers.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like, but the millennial, I guess it's from like 80 to something, 80 to 2000.
Well, I guess they probably
like
lived
those people are in their
through-
40s now, Jim.
I know that's why they're
right?
so
Like,
behind. There's a
30s
higher
and 40s.
percentage of people that don't own homes in that age
or I guess
bracket
in their
than ever
30s.
before.
Yeah.
but also kind of when they were in their early 20s, late teens.
They went through the
They
crisis.
went through that crash.
Sure.
And so I think that's
Little gun
probably-
shy.
Yeah.
Kind of Johnny's like that. Johnny C, if you think about it, he's in that age bracket, I think, and he did not want to buy a house. He bought a house kicking and screaming, basically, right?
We got to talk about those accessory dwelling units or the guest houses as it relates to appraisals, because there's an important detail there.
What do you mean by that?
I've had a few come across. Like you don't get, let's say you did that and you have, it's either detached or separated somehow.
Still under the same roof, but maybe there's an exterior
you
door
don't get,
that you have to get
it's
to.
not a 2-unit property, or maybe it's not a multi-family, but because it's a guest house, let's say it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom guest house, you don't get 4 total bedrooms. You get a 2-2 with a guest house that's a 2-1 or something like that.
Oh,
you're not
for
getting
appraisal wise.
yeah.
So they can't go grab comps from a 4-bedroom.
That's right.
And
That's
apply
right.
it.
Oh, I
It's
did not
a
know that.
4-bedroom. It's
I
a
did not know
2-bedroom
that.
with a accessory dwelling unit or a guest house or something, and that can confuse things because you have to comp it against two-bedroom properties with an ADU.
And in Palm Beach County, a lot of people don't know this. There's a regulation in Palm Beach County that you can't put in a kitchen. You can't put a kitchen into the house unless the person that's living there is 55 or over.
Oh.
Right? For an accessory dwelling unit, you're not allowed to have the kitchen unless the person's 55 and over. And a lot of people don't know that.
Like, wait, you can't have like 2 kitchens
Right.
in one house?
Right.
Under
Unless
one
the
roof.
second kitchen is being used by somebody 55 and over.
But I've seen in like
I know people
rich
do it.
people's houses that have 2 kitchens. They'll have kind of a main kitchen.
If it's called an accessory dwelling unit, you can't have the kitchen in there unless it's 55 and over.
Well, also we might be getting into the nuance, but technically, unless it has a kitchen, meaning you can cook food and safely store food, it's not an accessory dwelling unit. It's something else.
We only got
Guest
1
quarters.
minute, guys. We
Oh.
gotta.
Well,
I
let's
know
talk
it's been
for
long.
another
I'd like
minute
to
about
talk for another
ADUs.
hour. I'd like to talk to another hour because I missed everybody. We're always available to you 24/7. 888-973-7828. Jimmy.
Absolutely. 888-973-7828. Florida Talk Real Estate. It is a .com, as our good friend Johnny would say. Find out everything that you need to know about the world of real estate. Got questions? That's the place to go. FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. Mike Rouse, the one that's going to help you out with your mortgages from the mortgage firm. You want to learn about, it's another great thing too with Mike, taxes.
Yeah. We
Guy
can talk
knows-
taxes.
Guy knows the stuff about taxes. Mike, have yourself a great weekend.
You too, Jimothy. Thank you.
Thank you
Jimmy
so
C.
much. Jimmy C.
Jimmy C.
Ross Komarinetz with Brightway Insurance, Juno Beach. He's the guy that you want to get in touch with your homeowners insurance needs. Ross, have yourself a great weekend, buddy.
Thank you too. Hope everybody gets outside and enjoys the weekend.
Yes.
Jim DePola, the owner of Florida Home Pros, a top producing Keller Williams team. Jim, great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jimmy, for filling in and everything. Appreciate it.
Trying to do our best here. Great job. And we'll talk to you next week. Coming up on the other side of this very short break is the locker room Greeks in the bullpen, along with Joe. We're going to talk a little bit of sports because the NFL never ends. It's a 366-day sport this year. And so we'll be getting into that right here on Real Radio 92.1 and 101.7 on the Treasure Coast.